So relax and enjoy. I'd like your support. Fresh video every day. Looking forward to hearing your opinion. Let's go.
What are you the 1% of? According to my smartwatch, I'm in the top 1% of step count in the past 7 days. Wild and also boring. I am the 7th generation in my family with the same name. At the end of my name I legally have a 7. Every generation of my family going back to the 1700s has only one male and we all have the same name. I know a guy William James, last name X. 10 generations and he said they all went by a different name, Bill, Jim, etc. I figured I have to be in the top 1% of deaf guitar players worldwide. I heard completely fine for like 25 years and spent 19 years of that to practice guitar playing. Been legally deaf for 3 years now and still can play well, muscle memory. I kinda want to start a band called Deaf Metal or something. You have to watch The Sound of Metal. It is a movie about a drummer who starts to lose his hearing. Actually a great movie on its own right, but you would get it more than most would. Man, Deaf Metal would be a great name. Probably less than 1%, but I'm sucrose and fructose intolerant. No fruit, candy, ice cream, even some veggies for me. Now that is very rare. Friend. I have fructose malabsorption and am lactose, soy, almond, and egg intolerant. I was just telling my so that I have the very mild superpower of being able to identify rogue onion in my meals by the feel of it against my teeth, without actually chewing it. I am a pilot. In the USA about 0.01% of the population has a pilot's license. I am also an amputee, which in the USA is about 1% of the population. Not sure what percent of the populace are amputee pilots, but it's got to be pretty small. That would be 0.0001%. Got my wisdom teeth pulled. One side grew back over a year from a fragment left. Dentist published an article about it and was so happy. I was not with another oral surgery. My mom had her wisdom teeth pulled out, and they all grew back again. Dentist never seen anything like it, LOL. I have small intestinal cancer. The type is the same as colon cancer. But where it's located is less than 1% of worldwide diagnosis per year. But I've signed papers for 11 different oncologists to be able to access my records to see what works, what doesn't, etc. Because they just don't get enough examples of it. Kind of hit or miss on procedures to work with. Which treatments first? Which type of chemo? Etc. I've also said that if it ever reaches a point where I'm terminal and common treatments just won't/don't work anymore, I'm willing to go all guinea pig. Depending on exactly where it is. Because of the veins coming off of your mesenteric artery to feed the small intestine, it usually isn't operable. So you are strictly on chemo and radiation. If the heavy levels don't do it, then you get to go on low dose chemo daily for however long it works. Then it eventually doesn't. Currently, according to my last PET scan, the tumors have disappeared. They won't say remission. Just that it seems to be dormant right now. I'll take it. Thank you for wanting to go all guinea pig. I hope for your sake you don't get to do that anytime soon. I'm so glad to hear your recent PET scan showed good news. If it ever does reach a terminal point and you do go full guinea pig, it will be a huge comfort to your family. I can say that from experience. It was a small but bright light when we lost my dad. Good luck, friend.
AlphaGal Allergy. I was bitten by a Lone Star tick and now I'm allergic to any kind of mammal meat. Most cases last between 6 to 8 months. Mine appears to be permanent after a decade. I can't even eat something that's been prepped/cooked on the same surface as beef or pork in restaurants. Wait, staff isn't too fond of me, LOL. My mom has this. She got it in the 1980s and her doctor insisted she was crazy because nobody's allergic to meat. When the AlphaGal research hit a few years back, she felt so vindicated. How do they test that? Like how did they find out you were allergic to mammal meat? Is it deathly allergy or just mess your stomach up for days? So curious. My mom has this. She got it in the 1980s and her doctor insisted she was crazy because nobody's allergic to meat. When the AlphaGal research hit a few years back, she felt so vindicated. How do they test that? Like how did they find out you were allergic to mammal meat? Is it deathly allergy or just mess your stomach up for days? So curious. I'm in the 1% for people with narcolepsy. I believe it's 0.05% of America and 0.04% for the world. I have narcolepsy too. I am constantly disappointing people by not randomly falling asleep like in the movies though. My daughter was the first in Canada to have her cord blood harvested for stem cells. They were to be used for a bone marrow transplant for her brother. As a side note, my son was diagnosed with what was then called JCML. A child leukemia occurring in about 0.001% of all childhood leukemias. The survival rate I believe was in the 1 percentile range. I had an ear infection travel up what would have been an otherwise asymptomatic formation of my skull called arachnoid granulation until it finally reached my cranial cavity. It took a literal team of the best doctors, and surgeon, neurologist, multiple neuroradiologists, from Northwestern University Hospital and the University of Pennsylvania to first diagnose me and then treat me. I was absurdly lucky to have a friend of the family who is a doctor who was able to call in a favor to get the entire neuroradiology team at UPenn studying my numerous CTs and MRIs. The head of neuroradiology at UPenn told him I have the most unique looking skull he's ever seen. Talk about damning with faint praise. When they finally had a diagnosis, my aunt pulled my skull CT scan up and said, "Do you see that white spot? That's fluid. That's infection. It shouldn't be there. You're very lucky you haven't contracted meningitis. This had been happening for 10 years. Undiagnosed. And do you see this black space here? That's hair. That should absolutely not be there. Do you ever fly?" I responded yes. All the time. For work. For concerts. Regularly. Once a month or more. Well, you absolutely can't fly until this is fixed. Every time you've flown in the last 10 years and the cabin pressurized, that air could have expanded and shifted your brain off of midline and you'd have been dead immediately. Without knowing anything. They removed an L-shaped infected portion of my skull about 2x6 and replaced it with a titanium mesh plate after sewing the tear in my ear canal shut. It resolved the problem and I haven't had any issues since. I can now fly. Edit. Because people are asking. The symptoms were fullness, pressure, and the feeling of fluid in my ears. It lasted years and several aunts misdiagnosed me. Finally I asked one to put in a tube and it drained continuously for a month. The aunt I was going to, not the one who diagnosed me, thought it was a cerebrospinal fluid leak, and ordered me to have emergency surgery for a cerebrospinal fluid leak that didn't exist. He had taken a sample of fluid for testing but demanded I have what amounted to exploratory brain surgery for a condition that didn't exist. I was sitting on an operating bed as they were about to place pre-op antibiotics when I got a call from the aforementioned DR friend of the family who said they don't know what the feck they are talking about. Leave now. I got so many shit looks from the team of surgeons that had been assembled to cut my brain open to fix a problem that didn't exist. 2 days later I got a phone call from my aunt saying the results of the fluid sample came back. It wasn't CSF. No apology. No explanation. No nothing. What the aunt said you were lucky didn't happen, well that happened to my mom. On a transatlantic flight. She had an ear infection but she was used to them and wanted to get home so she flew anyway. Let's just say she got really sick. The plane changed its course and she actually survived. It was bacterial meningitis. Later some happy neurologist was flown in to operate on her. Now she's deaf on one ear but still going strong. Wow, they gave you a superpower. Why have I not read about this? I am allergic to temperature extremes. Taking a hot shower or touching an ice cube will give me hives. I have cholinergic urticaria, so anytime my body temp goes up I break out in hives. Room temp showers for me? Me too. It's worse in the summer going from AC to Texas heat. I take a prescription antihistamine every day to counteract. The fun thing of jumping in the pool from the hot tub that kids do sent me into anaphylaxis shock. Fun times. I can spin on my ass really fast, like probably around 20 full rotations in one go. I start standing up, then I put my left hand on the ground and I throw my right leg towards my left. Finally I retract my legs and put my hands on my knees and I go spinning like a motherfucking Beyblade. I've been doing this since I was 3 or 4. Yo, I thought that said you spin your ass and I was horrified at the image of someone fecking helicopter twerking. Imagine how world-shattering it would be if you learned from this thread that in actuality, nearly 100% of people do this, and you would in fact only be unusual if you didn't spin really fast on your ass to a max of 20 full rotations per go. Okay, so now we just need someone else to do this with you in a little ring, and whoever knocks the other one out of spin is the winner. Type 1 diabetes. It's a SID club. We can't even have cookies unless everyone brought their insulin. There are 0 benefits in this club. Been looking for this comment. It's like 0.5% or something. I don't think I've ever met another type 1 diabetic in person. It's the worst club. Not that I've looked it up, but I've run over a fish in my car. Whenever I tell the story, no one has heard anything like it. I've seen a video of salmon trying to swim over a partially flooded road. Was it like that? I do it every year. I live near a period lake and it dries up during the summer because it has massive cave systems underneath and it drains through huge holes in the ground when it rains less. Tons of fish on roads on the lake bed. Most of my family are fishermen, so we spend a lot of time moving fish from the draining areas into the permanent parts to help keep the population healthy. We're talking thousands of fish. Inadvertently you drive over some. I guess that puts me in the 0.01%, haha. I can swallow my tongue. Or rather put my whole tongue in the hole to my nose, where the nose and mouth come together. Apparently my ear doctor said that none of her colleagues believed her when she said she had a patient that could do that, so I had to do it while she was filming, so she could prove them wrong. Hilarious to have my doctor shove her iPhone in my mouth. Real question, I immediately think about the tongue getting stuck and choking. Is this a fear of yours when you stick your tongue all the way back? I was just over 11 pounds at birth. And got stuck mid-breech. Head out. Shoulders wouldn't push through. Doctor S decided that cutting me out would take too long at this point and could kill us both. So they pulled me out. In doing so, they tore all the wiring as it were down my left side of my neck. Unbeknownst to them, what happened was stunted growth of my left arm at an angle pointing almost behind me. They had to operate on my shoulder socket. And my hand had gone full on T-Rex angled, so they broke my wrist and turned it to force it to grow normally. I was in an almost 3/4 torso cast for months as a small kid. Today in my mid-30s. I can't fully outstretch my left arm. Maybe a 2/3 stretch at best. I can't lift it higher than my mid-chest. My wrist is pretty loose, hey now, so my hand wants to naturally flop forward a lot. I can still move around mostly. But I can't push with my left arm all that much. Struggle lifting heavy things. Can't push away to the side of me. Can't drive manual cars but can drive autos. My arm is also thinner than my right. Due to the muscle development. I had a twitch in a thumb almost like a clock for about 4 years that suddenly stopped. Also have to use my right hand to get my left into the position I wanted to be in. Because the nerves aren't there to send a signal to move it in certain directions. You normally just move your arms. But I can't, and it's like trying to move a part of you through telepathy. Physio was the only answer. But it barely changed anything after circa 6 months, and I packed that in my early teens because what's the point, etc. It's fucked me up pretty badly mentally, I'd say. Even though I'm overall pretty happy. Doesn't affect my work. I can still type, etc., but I get aches on my left shoulder blade and shoulder. I can't do push-ups or pull-ups, so don't go to the gym or do sports as it's an obvious disadvantage. So I'm overweight but not massive. I naturally got bullied at school a hell of a lot. I'm so used to hiding it that it's muscle memory now. Even though I'm at the stage of my life where I can say yeah, this is me. Deal with it. But because I don't work out, I stopped swimming or doing anything with my shirt off in public. I'd say yeah. Pretty damn rare case. And I don't even know what the condition is called. I need to see a doctor about it, as this was 80s when I was born and medicine has changed so much. I'm just so used to being this way, I've never really pushed to get answers. I've thought about it more since the pandemic, but obviously doctors aren't exactly seeing people right now for non-emergency stuff. Edit. Oh wow. My inbox exploded overnight. Thanks so much everyone for the support, rewards, and helping me see that this isn't actually all that uncommon. I just have a case where it wasn't fixed in time, or more to the point was a direct result of being pulled out, and it didn't develop while I was in the womb like some palsy can do. Yes. I've thought of suing over the years. My parents thought the same, but this is the UK and the NHS. My cousin was a nurse at the time and suggested against anything in court because back then the doctors would band together against us, saying it was the right call to be made at the time and circumstances. And that I'm an accident and just had bad luck. I haven't contacted any lawyers about it. Ever. But some days I wonder if I should. Given the sheer impact on my life physically and mentally due to a bad call by a doctor. I also acknowledge that some of you have pointed out in DMs and responses that people have lost limbs and still go to the gym and are ripped. What's my excuse? I've been making excuses and hiding my arm as best I can, and 99% of the time it goes unrecognized, as I still have everyday control over it, and it at least looks somewhat normal, if maybe half or 3/4 the size and width of my right arm. A lot of keeping my hand in my pockets. When you've spent 34 years hiding something and having it control you so much, it's hard to mentally just say fuck it and go to the gym and not care what anyone thinks. People see things differently. If you lost a limb, people will be proud of you for going to the gym and understand. When you have a limb that isn't normal but looks almost normal, you get ridiculed, bullied as a kid and teenager. And even adults will stare and judge you. You don't forget that stuff and it messes with your head. And it's just easier to not show it by going to the gym. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case and everyone in a gym is like fuck yeah man. Get it if they saw me trying. But I can barely do curls normally. And struggle with any bar lifting as my wrist doesn't rotate as much as my right, so maintaining a grip can be a bit awkward. Which confuses people because my hand looks normal. I can't do bench presses. Can't do pull-ups. Can't do push-ups. The strength isn't there. Nor are the nerves to actually push my arm away from me. You know when you lift so much you literally can't move your arm? Imagine that. But it happens after a certain point of movement. I can move my arm to X position, but past that, it's literally impossible, as the muscle development and nerves to send a signal are literally not there. It's just that when it's not obvious, you either have to tell people straight up or make an excuse. Everything from being scanned at an airport. Long sleeve clothing is slightly too long on my left arm but normal length on my right. Being asked to grab that thing off the top shelf as I'm 6'3". So I have to reach up and grab the thing with my right arm, lower it with my shoulder, and then grab it with my left as it comes down and looks like I'm gonna drop it. People don't understand. Getting scanned in a T-shape, sir. as I asked. Can you put your left arm out please? I can't. Oh. Why not? Sigh, and it makes me emotional on the spot. I don't know. Maybe it's all excuses and I need therapy. But seeing a consultant for my options will be a start. Maybe surgery can help. I don't know. I've lived so long with it that it feels weird doing something about it for once instead of hiding it every time I head out the door. I literally pick clothing that makes it easier to hide my arm. Pockets. Long sleeves. I love jackets, of course. I hate summer as it's shorts and t-shirts and it makes it more obvious to me. Sounds like a brachial plexus palsy caused by shoulder dystocia, if you want a Google Launchpad. One of my babies had shoulder dystocia. I was told that this can result in maternal or infant death, so I'm sure it was thought that a potential birth defect was better to risk. I ended up with an episiotomy and 4th degree tearing. That boy still has wide shoulders. http://www.marchupdimes.org/complications/shoulder-dystocia.aspx. Still sucks, man. I'm sorry. Not me, but my husband. He has a brain tumor on the pituitary gland. Before treatment his body pumped out pregnancy hormones, so he was hormonal and moody AF for ages. Just before it got really bad we managed to get pregnant. When our baby was born his chest had that let down sensation new moms feel, a heavy weighted feeling in your boobs. When our baby cried, his boobs started leaking breast milk same time mine did. He actually had to pump milk out to ease the pain in his chest. He got the treatment he needed and he no longer can squirt breast milk at me if I piss him off. Edit. Thank you so much for the rewards. Absolutely touched. It was officially diagnosed as prolactinoma. I know it's not exactly 1% but still pretty rare. On addition to medication to shrink the tumor I also had to give him hormone injections deeming him infertile for a few years. Male birth control. It broke his heart. Light at the end of the tunnel, we were able to get him off the injections and we're trying for baby number 2 after 7 years. We were successful, briefly, but it didn't last. Crossing fingers for next time. Your body can make the wrong hormones if you have a tumor. For example, people will start growing super fast since their brain will start making the growth hormone. Guys and gals, I think we have a winner. I guess I'm in the 1% of only having 3 lower front teeth. Oh my god, me too. I had no idea this was a thing. I just thought I was one weirdo. Did yours move to the center? Do your dentists also play a guessing game to figure out which one is missing? I'm so fascinated. When I was getting braces I had already known I only had 3 teeth down there, but I'd assumed there was just one chilling in my gums. When the orthodontist took x-rays though, he asked me about it and said it was a birth defect. The orthodontist laughed in my face when I asked for my disabled parking pass. LMAO. I have a blood, which is found in less than 1% of the population. Came here for this. My sister and I both have a plus, she is a blue-eyed red-haired girl, which makes her even more unique.